I mean, we know across the continent, youth unemployment is high and higher, and every year we're trying to figure out how to solve this. In South Africa, the unemployment rate for college graduates is even higher than non-college graduates. What does that mean? People invest 4 years into college, all of the financial resources to do this, and they graduate and they can't even find a job. So yes, I mean, I think that there's a lot of frustration, I guess, frustration, discouragement. But the thing is, I mean, I like the speakers this morning. I mean, we're so inspiring. That's also another thing that uniquely Kenyan and African is that young people are very ambitious, and they will find a way. We kind of, on Zindi, we have over 100,000 people on the platform representing 52 of the 54 African countries. We run challenges that are anything from solving climate change and food security to business problems to health, education, all these different applications for AI. And the thing is that these people who are on the platform, they're there because they are, they're self-motivated, they're looking for those opportunities, and they're really investing in themselves, and that's what's so exciting for me.
Nice. I move to Dana Banks. The topic today of the session title is Digital Transformation in Africa. How differently are African governments managing digital transformation, and in the same light, how can it be that they are leading the process at the same time there are different engagements? So we have the actual thing, digital transformation in Africa. How does it look like in Washington? How does it look like in the US, creating the US-Africa partnerships to grow the digital transformation agenda?
So I think it would be, more important to focus on what's happening on the continent and how African countries are collaborating to make this space and to open up the space and to provide the regulatory frameworks and some of the cross-border infrastructure and other things that are necessary to really see transformation across the continent. So you look at the African Union's adoption of the digital protocol of the AFCFTA recently. I guess it's been like maybe a year and a half ago now. Time is flying, but it took a while to get there. And I think that is a recognition of the fact that, look, AI is coming on just like gangbusters, right? Even in the U.S., we are, our regulators, our government, our parliamentary system, or Congress rather, is trying to figure out how to adjust and how to adapt. Meanwhile, the private sector is often running with it. So I think, the fact that it took a while to even get the African Union member states to sign on to the digital protocol shows that, obviously there's still a lot of work to be done, but at least there's agreement on this basic set of principles that will help guide, hopefully sort of as a block, the AU's, movement towards this digital transformation. Now, what that looks like on the ground, or let's say in Kenya, for example, and how, governments in each individual country, how they prepare the regulatory framework for that will be key. And I think it's important, as efforts are made, as the ecosystem for young innovators continues to grow and to boom, I think it's key for civil society, for members of civil society, for you all, for organizations like this to continue to be advocates and to educate, not just the public, but most importantly, the governments, the members of parliament who are going to be making the rules and the laws, that will govern this space, to educate them about what your needs are and what will really help you unlock the opportunity that you need in order to find employment. When you were talking to someone listening, I wasn't sure if you were talking about the U.S. or if you were talking about, Africa, because, young people here are also, they've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on degrees and they're graduating, they're finding it a hard time to find jobs. Well, and think about, the generations, before them, a couple generations before them, they're now being told that they're being replaced by AI. Not in such strict terms, but, it is, for example, I went to see my physical therapist yesterday, and they were transitioning to a new platform, and she was saying, would you mind if I use the AI scribe as you talk about, your progress in physical therapy, and it's going to transcribe, and she sort of gritted her teeth because she's like, because then I have to go in and I still have to correct it. But she said, if we don't use it, if we don't adapt to it, other people will and we'll be left behind. And that is the sense I get globally. So it's important that, and she's not that much younger than I am, but that's why, so I can only imagine, members of parliament who are a little bit older than I am, also don't have a hard time grasping what it all means and what it all can do. And meanwhile, AI is like gone, and you don't want to be left behind, nor do you want your country to not truly provide the opportunities that is necessary to continue to grow this technology while protecting the spaces where you work, space meaning, in the digital arena, and then how you can truly get the benefit from it, how you can protect privacy rights and other civil rights and freedoms is also key as this moves forward. So yeah, I think, and you can look to the U.S., but it really is a collaborative thing because we're all trying to figure this out at the same time, and we're all trying to beat the clock from the private sector, and that's going to be a challenge.
Thanks, Dana. I'll come back to you to comment on the work you're doing with civil society or something you can do with your community to ensure that they embrace AI and also see how they can transform various activities. And I know I have 8 minutes to handle this, then we open the plenary. I know my brother Walter will move the mics around after the next rounds of questions. But now to you, Selina, given the infrastructure gaps that we experience in tech connectivity costs in Africa, and we talk about the data scientists looking into it, what honest advice can you give governments, be it Kenyan government? There's a panelist here who said he's not aware where Togo is. Togo is somewhere in Africa. So let's take Togo to be one of the examples. We're using African countries, the governments. What honest advice can you give them on connectivity costs and other?
Yeah, I think we've seen in our community of data scientists and AI developers, for sure, infrastructure is a huge challenge, and we're not just talking about access to compute, but it is internet connectivity, it's even electricity, stable electricity. All of those things are the extra, I guess, costs that we're talking about for young people, that young people have to absorb and bear and have to overcome in order to pursue, a career in this space. But I would say for governments, I think about this as it really has to be an ecosystem play. We can't really, I don't even think infrastructure is necessarily the #1 problem. I think of it as a three-legged stool when we think about developing AI, where you have infrastructure, you also have investment in talent, and you also have investment in localized data, that can drive real AI use cases that are appropriate and can actually solve real problems in that market. All of this, of course, is then supported by access to capital and a supportive policy and regulatory environment that can enhance and promote innovation in this space. So I guess, my take for government is that we really have to think about investing in all of these spaces at the same time, because they all really depend and we can get onto a positive cycle together.
Thank you. Dana, for the civil society work you're doing to ensure that our AI can be used within the community. We were having a conversation earlier, and we're trying to find how ready is the community to receive the idea of AI and the work for civil society. You can take us through that.
Yes, so I think civil society is key, it's critical, especially, as we talk about U.S. engagement with the continent, with Kenya, specifically, and as you're all aware, our main assistance vehicle through USAID has been dismantled, but the need hasn't gone away in terms of human capital development, in terms of providing the resources, the human resources, and the capacity building that is needed in this space. And so where you have a challenge, it presents an opportunity. I think the opportunity here is for civil society, meaning organizations at the university level. You have advocates for the type of, again, policies. You talked about policies and the regulatory framework. As the U.S., for example, is leaning in more towards the trade and investment space with the continent and really on a bilateral basis, so we can talk about Kenya specifically. And you look at sort of these health MOUs and other things. I think it's really important, again, to have members of civil society, whether it's academia, whether it's practitioners of in the digital space, other organizations, either they're Pan-African organizations or local Kenyan-led organizations. Philanthropy is also plays a big role, or VC venture capital. How those different parties can come together and leverage their needs, what the private sector may need, and what you want to see as practitioners of this to really build a space that looks like opportunity for you and provides that space for you. So while we're in a space where assistance, U.S. assistance is not necessarily as robust as it has been in the past, there's still an opportunity to set the tone, to set the landscape, and to set the framework for what you want to see and what can help your sector and your colleagues, and with all of your skills, grow the innovation in the digital and tech space that is necessary to keep the transformation across Africa is happening. Because I know you're not waiting on us. You shouldn't be waiting on us. It should be happening independent of any foreign actor coming in and sort of helping to set. You guys know what you need. African agency, the agency, Kenyan agency must be preeminent, I think, in setting those terms, and I think that is the moment and opportunity that this presents for civil society.
And it's one thing that really we can take from the guest panelists that we have today. That's Dana Banks and Selina Lee. We now open this session. I know wherever you are, my brother Walter will lead us through this. You have the pain points, right? Pain points in Africa's journey in digital transformation. We'll take some few rounds. According to who, you'll see. Walter, over to you.
Is this becoming a little bit exciting? I want to speak to those who are. Let me start with that guy who's on the camera. Please introduce yourself for purposes of record, and then let us be very specific when we are asking the question. Please don't ask the panelists a question, then answer for them.
That is what I was about to do. Well, my name is Fidelis Ndombera. I'm a founder of a company known as PowerNax AI. It's a digital health tech company. I just wanted to let you, Selina, know that actually when the recent Zindi Challenge multilingual health question, that just ended Monday. Yeah, we participated, and I remember I have a team of about 15 Gen Zs in my company who are working on that challenge. Last weekend, when they were able to crack some code and some solution, they moved from position 1,000 to 370. So we want to appreciate you, and I was really burning to just be able to say that. Thank you.
Welcome, round of applause.
Yeah.
Thanks, Doctor.
Yeah, this young lady has a question to ask, please.
I'm allowed by my age for him to come to me again. I really like what you said, Dana.
Yes.
Yeah. Please just allow me to ask, do you feel that sometimes maybe the US may be losing out on not taking people from Africa on board without having to take them through equivalency tests? Because they do have a lot of knowledge. They have so much that they could bring on board in the US, simply with what they have from their countries. But when you come here, you have to start from entry level again, or go back to school and start from scratch. And maybe there's so much we already have from our education systems. I wonder if the US loses out because of the bottleneck of needing equivalency before you can be recognized in the US market.
Dana, that's a very difficult question. I wouldn't even try to answer it, but all the best.
Thank you so much. Dana Banks and Selina Lee. My name is Virginia Onyara. I am a policy student at Northeastern University in Boston. I will start with a small, to be able to understand my background, where I'm coming from. I'm in policy and I do environment and sustainability in ICT sector and telecommunication. So in 2015, I wrote a paper, a proposal about counterfeit products in Africa, because we wanted to see how do we manage counterfeit products, because we have extended producer responsibility and stuff like that. So this proposal was accepted, it was presented, and it later became a guideline by the ITU. And when I was doing this, the day we went to do the presentation is the day our study group was discussing the universal charger. Our study group is the one that came up with the universal charger. And I saw the power struggle. I didn't know it was power struggle at that time, but now I know as a policy student that that was power struggle, because people were discussing really policy issues. Do we go one charger or different chargers? This was my schoolmate, so yes. So my question is, both of you have worked in Africa and in developed nations as well. What do you think we lack or we struggle in as Africans when we get into the space, into the international space, that makes us not really get there? Because when I was doing my presentation, for real, I was scared. I was really scared. He's cutting me short, but I just wanted to ask, like, what do you think we are lacking or we are struggling in when we get into the international space?
Thank you.
Thank you.
From the previous session, we've answered, it's eye contact. Yeah, but she will expound. Let's just take one last question here, then I come to this young man, then we close.
Thank you, panelists, for your contribution. I'm in the 50s and above, but I want to speak for the Gen Zs. My question is, as AI transformation accelerates, and we have the government representatives possibly in here, how do we ensure that it creates more opportunities that, rather than displacement, especially for the young people that we have, which is the majority of our population, who most likely need reskilling by the time they graduate? They do a degree, some of them started before AI became really, really known. By the time you graduate in 4 years, it's irrelevant. So how do we take care of the youth, who are the majority of our population in Kenya? Thank you.
Yeah, wonderful question. One last one, then we come to Selina and Dana, or Dana, right?
Either way, it's fine.
Thank you, Selina, Dana, and Cleo for the wonderful job you're doing. My name is Dr. Omo Tieno. I'm a researcher at Virginia Tech. But what I wanted to ask is about AI ethics and harm, the potential harm and the ethical issues that come with AI. Based on your experience, what is this main issue that you think AI might influence or might affect, particularly back home in Africa? Also, like, if you are responding to that, could you also respond to it with respect to the power imbalance between a powerful country like US and Kenya, for example? Would it be that Kenyans would just take anything that the US proposes, or what are strategies that we might use to kind of help to balance that? Thank you.
Yeah, like you're talking about the Ebola military set or something? No, forget. That's not an AI thing. Back to you.
Thank you. And I know you have lots of questions, and we started from the pain points. Those who have not found an opportunity to ask, don't worry. There are other sessions that are here, but there are those following us live. This session is online, and there's one with an interesting question. I don't know how you're going. We'll get through. Then, if they'll speak.
What's the type?
Okay, we'll get it. So let's start with you, Dana.
Okay, I'm just going to do rapid fire. I used to be a public affairs officer, so I can take these, no problem. The first question from my dear sister. Is the U.S. missing out? This is the great thing about being a retired diplomat. I can speak from my perspective. The short answer is yes. I think that not only in sort of the situation that you described, but it speaks to a larger issue, and it has to do with, basically visas for highly skilled workers coming to the U.S. And it's a larger question about our sort of immigration policy, specifically for that. It's called H-1B, for the H-1B visas. Since I don't know your specific case, I can't speak to that, but I would say, yes, we are missing out, but that doesn't mean that you have to miss out, because there are other opportunities. I think what's interesting about this moment is that, the agency of, our colleagues on the continent now has sort of expanded, and the aperture, the space has really broadened, and you can see where there are other opportunities that may exist where you will not be left out. So that's my personal opinion on that, mixed in with a little bit of policy. My sister here from Northeastern, again, I say, what are African students lacking to be competitive in the U.S.? That was my paraphrasing of your question. Nothing. You're not lacking a thing. I think, again, the onus is, and it speaks to something I mentioned earlier, really there is so much of how you're able to, for example, gain, investors in a certain project, or to gain employment, for example, or to really hear people listen, get people to really hear you when you're presenting a paper or something. It's really about their perceptions. And so I think, again, and I know this from working in the space, from the Africa policy space, it has become, it is, and continues to be a challenge to see, for others to see outside of the space, how working on African policy is actually beneficial, and in terms of what the U.S. priorities are, and the opportunities that abound there, and that it's not all disaster, disease, and pestilence, and and crisis. That there are opportunities. So I think this just goes to the importance of continuing to do the work, and to shatter the narrative and to shift the narrative. And I think the diaspora here in the United States can go a long way in helping with that. I think it's one of our strongest points in terms of U.S.-Africa relations, is that we have such a broad and wide African diaspora in many large cities around the country. So you're not lacking anything. I think the narrative just needs to shift. Reskilling, my sister over here, is a very important question, and especially for a generation like mine, for example. We are still grappling with that in the United States too, and I think it's important. Again, you guys could perhaps lead the way, but this is where I was talking about the advocacy by society with your government, because there are smart ways to do this. There are people who actually have creative solutions to this, and I think if we look to Europe, they're looking at ways in legislations, different countries in Europe, because it's going to be necessary for all of us, not just in Kenya, but it's really important. But the most important thing I can say is just to embrace and try to understand AI, because I think the race will be won by those who at least understand this, instead of those who just totally reject it, so that even if AI is introduced into your work stream, you will know how to take advantage of it, and if the shifts come and they have to cut people, at least you'll be familiar with it. And the last issue, the last question, my brother here, when you asked about what is sort of the challenges that you see with AI, for me, I see on the continent and Kenya in particular, I think, you know, the challenges to democracy, and this was something else I was talking about in the civil society space. We see it all the time, the opportunity for mis and disinformation to just spread widely, and those who aren't as savvy don't even realize that it's AI and that it's fabricated and that it's false, and how that can really churn and turn things in a society negatively. Some can use it to persuade or dissuade to get others on their side, you know, between countries. So yeah, that's what I think is the greatest challenge with AI.
Thank you, Dana Banks. And I get from Selena to add a voice.
I'll go very quickly. I'm going to start with the skills question because that's actually where Zindi really is trying to play a role. The AI that we know today is not what it was 12 months ago or even 6 months ago. So universities cannot keep up. I think boot camps are doing a bit of a role, but then the thing that we're trying to do with Zindi is that every month we're launching 2 to 3 new challenges. He mentioned one of the challenges we ran, which was to fine-tune large language models to be able to answer health questions from new moms in 5 different African languages. These are cutting-edge areas of research, of applications of AI that will not just change Africa, but change the world. And every month we're launching new ones that are coming directly from the industry, directly from the healthcare providers, directly from the schools, directly from the companies. So that's the main thing, is that we have to find other alternative, more innovative ways to complement what's happening in the universities to give people the access to the most cutting edge use cases of AI that they can get involved in. Then on the harm thing, you know, one of the big, when we first started Zindi, one of the big controversies at that time was facial recognition. I don't know if you guys remember this, but one of the first issues that had come up was when they realized, I think it was maybe AWS's, the facial recognition was not working on people of color, especially women of color. It was performing the least well on. And then companies were adopting these technologies without realizing the faultiness of these algorithms. I always felt that if you had more women of color around the table at the point of every single point of decision, where were you getting the data from? Who was training the models? Who was doing the testing? It would have been caught way before it went out into market. So that's the thing that we need to solve, is get everyone around the table so that harm is minimized.
Thank you. Thank you. Let's together. Thank you so much for being part of this conversation, and what you've mentioned will form the next part of this discussion today. Panel after the lunch break will be covering, can AI save Africa, healthcare, or break it? It's an interesting conversation that we don't want to miss. After this, from this and before I hand over to my brother, I've been your host, and because this is my first time in America, I'll be back tomorrow. For to be day 2.
Yeah, we will make his presence here in Africa, here in DC. We want to appreciate the panelists, but before we do that, there's someone on the online platform, Grace Akini. Grace seems to think, before you go, Dana, Grace seems to think that there's a global framing of Africa as victims of AI and technology. And therefore, Africans have bought that narrative. Would that be a true reflection of what it is, and what will be your parting shot?
First, I just want to say that I absolutely align with everything Selena just said, and I think that leads to some of that question here. I don't think that Africans should be afraid of AI or worried or scared. That is the precise, you know, that's the opposite of the position that should be taken. Like, there need to be more African women at the table so that when they're doing models, when they're doing, you know, voice and face recognition, just think of the ways that, you know, we're, or, you know, as you know, Black Americans even are left out of some of these conversations, and then you know, the models are built, and you know, the information that we need or it may not serve us, or even, you know, there was a announcement of a lawsuit about a platform for job seekers called Workday that you know, it has basically been accused of being racially discriminatory. And so if that's happening here, you know, and we are part of the discussion supposedly, you know, you can just extrapolate that out and see what's happening on the continent. So that begs the need even more so for Africans to really embrace it. It is not just coming, it is here and it is moving fast, but be a part of it so that you're not left out of it.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll ask Professor Ouma to join us here as we take a picture with Dana.